over down up to the present crop of leaders in Nigeria. So that there is no serious disconnect between post-colonial Nigeria and colonial Nigeria. So they have the same mentality. And if you have that same mentality, what it means that the political governable space will be a kind of be a situation where it is characterized by conflict, because everybody will want to have a space, not because they want to actually serve the people in the real sense of the word, but because they have their own personal interests. Now, a projection of personal interests that has led to these manipulations, judicially speaking from both sides of his mouth. Governors can go to state high court, the other people can go to national, federal high court and get judgment, conflicting judgment. The bottom line, of course, is that they are not doing all this because they have the interest of people at heart.
You're right.
They are doing all this because...
Well, the only thing I would just add is that the interplay between individual or personal interest and institutional development is an ongoing thing everywhere. It is the gradual negotiation between private and group interests against the collective interests that shape the character of institutions over time. And let's hope that these experiences will help
engagement and, you know, stakeholders prioritizing, you know, putting pressure, because from everything that Associate Professor has explained, he explained what ideally should be obtainable. But the reality in the Nigerian democratic system is very different. And when you look at it and analyze it critically, it appears very Presidential Labour Party and Governor Alex Otti of Abia State have announced stakeholders meeting of the party, 4th September at Banquet Hall, Government House, Umuahia. Alex Otti, former vice presidential candidate of the party, Dati Baba Ahmed, Julius Abure-led executives, Senators Pella, Delta State, Southwest, Mr. Badebo Rhodes Vivo, Lagos State, South-South, Honorable Chijoke Edoga, Enugu State, Southeast, Mr. Jonathan Asake, Kaduna State, Northwest, Mr. Patrick Dakum, Plateau State, North Central, and Mr. Keftin Amunga, Gombe State, Northeast. Dr. Nelson, this move by Peter Obi and called for a press conference, and the National Working Committee of the Labour Party came out to even set up a disciplinary committee, you know, saying that it is time they put the... What do you have to say about this?
The unexpected.
Okay.
Yes. Attention have not grown themselves over time like the other two leading political parties to be able to handle a candidate of and attention of P2B stature. So all that brought all manner of pressures on the party, given also that it is also possible that the other parties might be interested or might be sponsoring part of this crisis within the party. But all that said, at the initial stages of the crisis, P2B seemed to be a bit withdrawn. In fact, many persons felt that he was not moving quickly enough to resolve the issues in the party. And I guess he was allowing space for the party to resolve his own problems without him imposing his will. But this is coming, this is highly commendable for me. Do
you think it's belated?
No, I don't think it's belated. I don't think it's belated at all. It is highly commendable from several points. One, given that P2B and the governor of Abia State are working together and have set the agenda together.
The argument would be that they are the ones who, you know, are to call for any meeting in any capacity at the national level of Labour Party. What do you have to say to that?
In a state where there is already crisis, there is limited legitimacy by any of the organs. This kind of group that encompasses everybody becomes superior to any arm, because whatever their claims are, they are now sectional. They no longer have the following of the entire party. So they cannot continue to claim that. They need to subject themselves to these discussions and allow the will of the party to reign. Otherwise, they could actually be accused of being a fifth columnist within the party.
Interesting.
Yes.
Associate Prof, what is your take on this story?
Yeah, first, let me say that for us in the social sciences, we believe that conflict is natural. But what is important is how that conflict is resolved. We are aware of the fact that crisis in the Labour Party has lingered for a very long time. And now that it appears we have relative stability, my thinking is that all relevant stakeholders should see how to manage that, midwife that party to reality. It shouldn't be a situation where at this point in time you are beginning to rekindle old wound. I think that you have centrality of governance. You know, in public administration, you have that hierarchy, and everybody has his own role and responsibilities to, play or discharge. And given the fragility of the Labour Party as it is now, I was thinking that the personalities of P2P and other people should have found a more diplomatic means of handling the party affairs. Yes, there's nothing wrong in having a stakeholders meeting. Sometimes you do the right thing at the wrong time.
Okay.
And if you do the right thing at the wrong time, you may not have the expected results. If at the national level we have managed to stabilize, at least Aburi is now the national chairman, whether other people like it or not, or whether they believe on it. But I think there's relative stability now, which I was thinking that all the relevant stakeholders in that party will help to stabilize more. Then you also consider the fact that if you as...
You know, he emerged.
Okay, yeah, he emerged now.
Emerged as the National Schools of Labour Party under very controversial circumstances.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So at this point, there is still that fragility. And I was thinking that personalities like P2B and the Abia State Governor should have handled that matter more diplomatically. Because if you are a chairman, whether rightly or wrongly, and you have, overseen the affairs of the party, there are statutory functions, like I talked about hierarchy in an organization. There are functions that the national chairman should be able to also perform, especially at this point where, there's the belief, or he has the belief that, look, I need to stabilize. So any other thing that is not coming, or I'm not seem to be performing my duties, will look as if they have come again. So I was thinking that, I don't know whether P2B and the Abia State Governor have done that. So maybe give a suggestion to the national chairman and say, look, these are the things we need to do at this point in time. Probably to strengthen our party and then have a very formidable grassroots mobilization, So they should have suggested that and let it also come from, the national party chairman to say, well, we have deliberated on the advice given to us by, and this, we're trying to also see how that we can organize a national convention or anything that will strengthen our party. From the list and the members who are to attend that meeting, I see inclusivity, right? Touching on all relevant stakeholders. Yes. That is the heart of democracy. But then it must come from the right channel. You don't go at the back and then begin to convene such an important meeting when the national chairman and his ESCO are not part of it. So
they are part of it. The invite was also extended.
No, you can invite, but his idea originally coming from them.
Now,
are they subscribing to that idea?
Okay.
Remember, not losing sight of the fact that they are just coming out of the woods.
Okay, now when you look at it critically,
yes.
First of all, the Abure-led faction had issues with the Apapa-led faction.
Good.
And much later, the court judgment was in the favor of the Abure-led faction. And after that, another set now emerged and said that there was a court judgment some years back that actually recognized them by an order. And going by that order, it is subsisting. that particular issue has not been resolved. It's still there in the oven.
Yeah.
Mr. Okafo, if you recall, that's the name of the man.
Okay.
It's still on. It goes off after a while. Mr. Okafo will rekindle it and come back again. He has his own group of persons, and they are aiming for the national leadership of Labour Party, and they have a court judgment to back them up, according to them. Now, on the other hand, the same Abure-led faction now has Okafo to contend with, Okafo-led executive to contend with, and now he is also contending with the Nigerian Labour Congress. You will recall.
Yeah.
And Nigerian Labour Congress also set up a transition committee. When you look at all these things, stakeholders are having issues. Some persons, even at the state level, even in Edo State upcoming elections, some of the obedience moved to support APC, as it were. So now, as it is, yes, the Abure-led executives are there, but the party is balkanized. And within the window of these issues, back and forth, the Abure-led executive have been unable to. There are persons like the former presidential candidate and Alex Uti. They are probably, according to their gentleman agreement, the highest in hierarchy in the political party. Are they not well within their rights in the interest of lasting peace? Not forgetting that 2027 presidential general elections is coming up. In the interest of the general elections, in the interest of the party, in the interest of cohesion, seeing that Abure has failed to use the internal mechanism to reconcile warring factions, even himself is embattled, what would you expect these people to do at this point? Do you even see Abure calling a meeting of this nature for reconciliation? If you see him doing it, why hasn't he done it since?
Well, you see, we cannot continue to walk in confusion. A house divided against itself cannot stand. And first thing first is that the issue of leadership at the national level must be settled before any other thing can follow. Because I tell you, in the hierarchy of court system in Nigeria, like you just mentioned a court order many years ago. And I know that if a lower court gives an order and that judgment is appealed to a higher court and the higher court sets aside that order, it stands. So the order you had 100 years back will not stand.
It has not been vacated.
Or if it has not been vacated.
If it has not been vacated, it's still subsisting.
So if that order has not vacated, so what happened to this other one that cleared Abure? Are we working in a banana republic? And that's part of the problem we are referring to judiciary, if that is true. Because you just mentioned to us that now that a court has cleared Abure as the national chairman of the party. So if that is the case, I want to believe that that is a subsisting order. So if that is a subsisting order, then why is the other people coming up to say we are now in charge, we are still in charge, referring to
a judgment that was not vacated?
Well, if that judgment bearing on leadership, I wonder what the court did. I wonder the prayers of Abure and other people in the court.
The issue was not between Abure and the Okafo-led executive. The issue was between Abure and the Apapa-led faction.
Group.
The court will only grant you prayers that you have said before it.
Okay.
You understand?
Fine. Fine. You know how this court system works when lawyers in there, you know that they always make references. If there is a substantial issue on leadership and you have other faction, and I think that should also be brought to the attention of the court, because the court cannot give partial judgment, partial ruling, when they know that there is another faction on leadership. Because if a present court...
Probably that the court does not know that.
The court was not aware. It was not.
Yeah, so if the court is not aware, and there is a substituting order of a court, I don't know whether this one is higher than the other one that gave the order. If this one is a higher court, that means the one giving 100 years wait should be vacated, and that's how the court system operates in Nigeria. I don't know which one is higher, which one is lower. But you can't have the same court giving conflicting rulings on the same matter. So for now, what we are aware of, and then you don't lose sight of the fact that, you know, in the judicial system, in law, that's what is called status bar. Sometimes, if you are expected to take action within 2 weeks, and you didn't take that action within 2 weeks, after 2 weeks, the law does not recognize the action anymore. So that could be. So if this present court has cleared Julius Abure and his ESCO, then that's what they want. That's the substituting order. And so if anybody want to do anything at this point in time, they must have recourse to the national chairman.
All right.
You just wake up one morning and begin. And that will also give the impression that, look, we're just coming from this thing. It appears to us that these other people, you know, they are not recognizing us. I mean, that will be the possible interpretation by the Julius Abure ESCO. So if you are not recognizing us, by not consulting us, or by not allowing us to do what we are supposed to do, and then it means that the battle is still on.
All right.
And you cannot achieve any meaningful thing without stabilizing the center. The center must be stabilized.
All right. Dr. Nelson, isn't that the move that P2B and OT is making right now to stabilize the center?
I agree there is a move to stabilize the center. I've read a couple of interviews by P2B before now, responding to insinuations that he's been too quiet over the issues at the center. And his responses alluding to the fact that he will not have to intervene in public, more to say that he's been involved and trying to do those things informally and all that. So for them to get to this level, it means that legality has failed. The courts are not able to rein in the crisis, given that after the Supreme Court judgment, there are still other issues and other conflicts. And this is a time when political intervention, settlements, negotiations, concessions can be made. And obviously, that stands better than using legality where at the adversarial court system where there are winners and losers. Politics is able to more better negotiate consensus. And given the expanse of the invitees in this meeting, this is more like a mini national convention.
Yes.
The only thing lacking now is that you don't have elected representatives from all the zones all over the country. And they should come to an agreement at this level. Let's hope that Labour can put itself together after this meeting. Because Nigerians actually want to see that.
Nigerians are hoping that Labour will actually be the third force in this.
Yes.
All right. Nigerian Labour Congress has directed all its members nationwide to embark on a peaceful prayer procession on August 29. Mr. Emmanuel Obaja, General Secretary of NLC, said this in a letter addressed to all affiliates and state councils on Wednesday in Abuja. The letter is titled Mobilization for Peaceful Procession and Prayer Session in Solidarity. Recall that the police had invited Joe Ajaero, NLC president, for interrogation on charges related to alleged criminal conspiracy, terrorism financing, treasonable felony, subversion, and cybercrime. Ubaja said that the procession is in response to this recent invitation by the police to Ajaero to appear for interrogation on trumped-up charges in August. The letter reads, "We call on all NLC affiliates and state councils to mobilize their members in Abuja and across the states to show solidarity. All Central Working Committee members resident in Abuja and other members are expected to assemble at the national headquarters of the NLC by 8 a.m. on August 29. This is to accompany the president to the police for the scheduled interaction," he said. He said that those in the state capitals should gather at their respective state secretariats or Congress. Obaja urged them to embark on a peaceful procession to their state police headquarters, where they will hold a prayer session until the president's interaction with the police is concluded. This peaceful march is a united stand against the unjust actions aimed at intimidating our leadership and stifling the voice of Nigerian workers. We urge all members to remain peaceful and orderly throughout the procession and prayer session. If for any reason the president is detained all workers nationwide shall proceed on an indefinite strike. Your unwavering support and solidarity at this critical time are crucial to defending civic rights and the integrity and rights of the labor movement. Together, we shall overcome these challenges and continue to uphold justice, fairness, and democracy in our dear nation, he said. Let me start with you, Associate Prof. What is your take on this?
Yeah, first, let me say that there is nothing wrong in showing solidarity, you know, especially when you're on the right course. But I think that at this point in time, the labor is too hasty, jumping into conclusion by organizing procession. I mean, ordinarily, the police is there. We all know the functions of the police. The police is there to ensure that investigations are carried out. Mere invitation by police, I don't think should warrant this kind of prayer section. Probably
they are looking at the events that led to that police invitation and the body language of the federal government.
I read what the SCP, the letter, you know, the invitation letter, I read it. And part of it is that if upon interrogation and is not found guilty, you will be let to go. That's what the letter, the invitation letter to Ajero. I read it.
Okay.
So I wonder why we are counting the chicken before the egg is hatched. This kind of mobilization, for me, at this point in time, by labor, is not necessary.
Let's look at the charges again.
Yeah,
criminal conspiracy,
hold on
terrorism, financing,
sometimes you may be
treasonable felony, subversion,
and that's why the ACP said, if at the end of the day you are not found guilty, you are let go. Somebody can come up with charges. That's the sense of clearinghouse. The police, the court system, they are the clearinghouse. If I can just give up charges against you now, and well, it's expected that institution concerned should go and investigate. If you are not guilty as charged, you are discharged. You are let go. It becomes a problem where after the investigation you are not guilty, and then they are now beginning to punish you unduly. And even if you are, the police have found something against him, the police is not the final arbiter. You have the court system. So
as the judge,
exactly,
but you, associate professor, on this show, has said that the judiciary has failed to a large extent, and you're now saying they have the court system that even you do not trust.
Exactly. You see, that's why I said, you know, I'm just explaining this situation how things will be, because we need to educate the public how things should be. But if, on the other hand, due process was not followed, then the labor has right to begin to ask for this kind of procession and protest. Okay? You remember when Al Sasaki was detained, even when the ECOWAS court said he should be released on bail, some of the Muslim section protested. So at that point, you have the real ground for protest. But for now, our people say, if you want to hold somebody, don't hold the person at the elbow joint, hold the person here, so that he will not be able to wriggle out of that grip. At this point, you may have all the plan. The next day, the police will release Ajero. I will say, please, after interrogation, you are not found guilty. Please, can you go home? So you must have wasted your energy. And do you know that? Of course, you know that this protest, given the scenario, the circumstances we are in Nigeria, something might go wrong. The so-called hoodlums may also take advantage of that. Human beings be there. Something may go wrong, and there will be damaging effect on the type of place. So I think that, you know, why not labor, watch and exercise patience and see the outcome of that interrogation? I don't know whether he has actually honored the invitation of the police. Has he gone?
He's honored. He should be there as we speak.
As we speak.
And the process, even in River State, the procession has started already.
So I think we are being too hasty. If you now go to court after he has been released, what's the justification of the process? And for crying out loud, why can't also Labour? You know, sometimes people accuse Labour of being very selfish, very, very parochial. Why can't this Labour also organize this kind of protest with regard to refineries in Nigeria not working? Because it's a pressure group. It's not only for the members of the organization. So why can't they also organize this kind of thing and protest against moribund refineries that will have far-reaching effect on Nigerians? Why can't they do that?
All right. But before we come to the actions and inactions of Labour, I do not want us to deviate from the crux of the matter. I will still come back to some of the concerns you've raised, Associate Prof. But then, Dr. Nelson, what is your take on this?
Anyway, this time around, I want to deviate slightly from Dr. Wona's position.
All right.
My take and my concern is that Ajero is a Labour leader, the president of the Nigerian Labour Congress. Before the police will come up with this kind of weighty allegations against him, they ought to have properly investigated. The strength of the investigation should not depend on his interrogation. It should not depend to say that when they interrogate him and he's found not to be guilty, he will be released. It's somehow. And if you look at the interrogation and the timing of this kind of allegations, it's too weighty. It smacks of something that has a political undertone.
More like a political conspiracy.
I'm afraid that it smacks of something that has a political undertone. And Labour also might be privy to information that we do not have for them to be engaging in this level of mobilization. And the court system, again, that is really a big problem. The court system used to be and ought to be the hope of the last hope of the common man. In which case you can say, okay, if the executive have abused their power, you can go to court. But now the executive, when they intend to abuse, will tell you to go to court because they know that the court will not even save you. So I think I'm in support of the mobilization, especially because there is serious suspicion that this might have political undertones, maybe with the intention to cage the leader himself or to further untwist Labour and render them unable to actually stand in opposition against the state. Look at the negotiation of a minimum wage that was just concluded and has not even begun to be implemented. You could see that there was a lot of arm twisting. The way and manner that negotiation was conducted and ended showed that Labour was increasingly weak. And who knows how far the government wants to weaken them more. Because this looks like something is targeted.
Now, let's look at the events that, led to the events that happened, that led to this invitation.
Okay.
You would recall that during the End Bad Governance in Nigeria protest, Labour released a communique, particularly with the killings that were happening here and there across states. Labour held an emergency NEC meeting, and at the end of the NEC meeting, they released a communique condemning extrajudicial killings.
Good.
They condemned the actions of the police and the military towards unarmed protesters. And they also, in that communique, clearly stated that they are not part of they are not the organizers of the protest. However, that they stand in solidarity with the protest. Now also urging the government to recall that they had gone on, they had organized a 3-day hunger protest earlier in the year, and the presidency in response told the NLC president to wait for him in 2027 if he so wants to be the president of Nigeria. Labour recalled all that and said that they have, to a large extent, tried to advise the president, play their own part, and they've not received any positive response from the government. They condemned that and also made the government know that the actions of the government and the actions of the police and the military towards unarmed protesters are against international human rights standards. They said that. And after, I think 24 hours or 48 hours after the release of that communique, the NLC Secretariat in Abuja, the headquarters, was raided. Now, at the aftermath of that raid, the DSS denied responsibility for it. The police denied responsibility for it. Different security operatives denied responsibility for it. After that, Labour now came out to say that they suspect that their secretariat, the headquarters, may have been bugged, and they now proceeded on an internal security sweep of the secretariat. Shortly after that, this is what is now coming out. An investigation. Let me read the charges.
The charges.
Again, the charges are quite weighty. They are quite heavy. The charges: criminal conspiracy, terrorism financing, treasonable felony, subversion, and cybercrime. Now, there are concerns in certain quarters. Is it not a move to stifle Labour, NLC? Why is TUC not in this mix? TUC, to a large extent, has been, they've taken the back burner. To a large extent, TUC has been silent. You recall the hunger strike that they were to embark towards, very close to the protest. TUC pulled out and said that they were never even part of the protest in the first instance. Why is TUC not part of this? The TUC has been silent largely.
Yes.
Labour has been at the forefront, playing opposition that other political parties should play. Now, the question is the government stifling Labour at this point?
Again, I think I came across that communique from Labour sometime. I forgot that as I was discussing. But this build-up, again, reinforces the fear and concern of Nigerians. It reinforces that this coming now, and again coming after the 10 days strike and the position that Labour took, all these are pointers to the fact that maybe government is not comfortable with Labour. Maybe government does not even want to hear any voice of opposition at all.
You recall PDOM Nigeria?
Yes, because as we
the
speak,
journalists that they arrested and denied holding them until after, David Hundeyin, the journalist started, using social media to cry out, and the police later came out to say that they are holding him in
Nigerians have a right to be concerned.
You also recall the BBC, former BBC, I think, Pidgin editor, that was also detained and recently released. The question is, right now, as it stands, which are genuine concerns with everything that is playing out, is the government at this point not tolerant of dissenting voices?
That's where I was just coming to. This is a democracy, and Mr. President was a pro-democracy activist, and he needs to be mindful that whatever is happening under the agencies now are happening under his watch, and those things will be credited to him and his government after he is done. So government needs to be aware and step in to make sure that there should be room for people to err. There should be room for people to state their opposition. All communications that are not in agreement with the government are not necessarily intended to bring down a government. They could just be alternative voices that the government can harness and make governance better on the behalf of the people.
All right. Associate Prof, your final
let me say something here.
As we close.
Yes, I want to say that nobody is above the law. Anybody can be invited by the police, because that's part of the constitutional responsibility of the police. But what we should be considering is what comes after that invitation. That's what we should be considering. And so I think that if we are operating democracy, we should allow the different organs, agencies to do their work. But in doing that, we should also, align ourselves, work in tandem with the constitutions of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Everybody should be guided by that. And the Constitution is the ground norm that guides the governance of every society. So nobody is above the law. If somebody is invited by the police, let him go and answer himself. We are told that a clear conscience fears no accusation. So for me, I think that the action of NSC is quite hasty for now. They should have waited for the outcome of that invitation.
All right. And this is where we wrap it up on this episode of Open Conversation. Thank you so much, Dr. Nelson, for coming. It's always a pleasure having you.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you so much for coming, sir. It's also always a pleasure having you on Open Conversation.
Thank you very much.
And this is where we wrap it up on this episode. And we are open for advert placements, bookings, and commercials. You can connect with us on all our ATN socials: Facebook and YouTube, Atlantic Television Network; Instagram and TikTok, Atlantic TV Network 1.